Hello and welcome back to the Fighting Talk 2 channel. We are the Fighting Talk 2 team. The eloquent analyst. How are we doing, sir?
Doing good. Missed you boys. It's been a hot minute. We've all been super busy. Life can throw some unexpected curveballs at you, but we always do our best to avoid them the best that we can. But I'm just really happy to be here and chatting some MMA with my guys.
That's it. Beautiful. I love it, man. I love it. George, Casual Corner. How are we doing, my friend? Your hair looks short. I feel like you've cut it again.
I actually had a photo shoot for my business the other day, so I had a little trim. There's a very posh, fancy magazine down here who wanted to put me on the front cover, so I said,
Okay.
certainly, I'd love to do that, and that's why my hair is a bit shorter than it was.
I mean, personally, I prefer the bangs that we had at the beginning of the year, you know?
Fuck me, yes, I love that. Yes, that was the one. I'm bringing that back. I'm going for the proper Aussie mullet.
That's it, man. That's it. And not only we're looking forward to your bangs coming back, George, we are looking forward to some bangs this weekend at UFC 266. We've got some fantastic fights coming up this weekend. We've got the prelims are absolutely stacked to the brim. Praf, what are you looking forward to on the prelims? Because there are some insane matchups coming this weekend. And I feel like it's about time we had some insane matchups. We've had some very, very light cards the past couple of weeks. But tell me what you're looking forward to, man.
Oh man, the prelims are so stacked. Like, it shows how good the main card is when the prelims have got people like Dan Hooker, Marlon Moraes on the undercard. So for me, obviously the big one that stands out is Dan Hooker versus Nazareth Haqparast. Two top-level lightweights ready to go to war. This could potentially bring Nazareth into into kind of like the top 10 of the lightweight division, which I believe is something where we've been waiting for him to break out and be that star. And I think this is the fight, if he can win, would take him there. For Dan Hooker, this is an amazing chance for him to bounce back. And I know he's had a few losses here, and some really crushing ones like the Michael Chandler one. But I think the biggest thing is it's not. I wouldn't say that this is like a tune-up fight for him, but I would say that this is a little bit of a step down in competition compared to the Michael Chandlers, the Dustin Poiriers, the top of the division. So I'm excited to see what version of Dan Hooker comes up to this fight. It's such a close fight as well that it's very, very hard to call because, Dan Hooker's on a bit of a losing streak here. And Nazareth is so good. He's so technical, and he can find opportunities from very, very little things. Like, I know he's good with his head kicks. He's good with his counter punching and things like that. But Dan Hooker is so long and lanky that if he can keep any of these guys on the outside, he has a chance to win against any of these guys. And he's got such good boxing and kickboxing that I think really, I mean, I know he lost to Dustin. I know he lost to Michael Chandler, but these are all fights that if he was using his attributes to the fullest extent and stop going in there and having wars with these guys and trying to get these guys out of here, he could really be like a staple in the top of the division. And this is his way of getting back to those big fights. He's the second top fight on the prelims, and he's coming off of co-mains, main events, Dustin Poirier, Michael Chandler. This is his chance to get back to those fights. And I think if he has a good performance here, maybe puts Nazareth away, that this is a good opportunity for those fights to get remade and for him to really elevate himself to the top of the division. I don't think he's particularly old. I'm just going to look at his age now. He's 31. So, he's still got a good couple of years in him before he gets out of there. And I can't imagine he's taken a huge amount of damage either. So I'm excited to see where he goes from here. And I'm excited to see which version of Dan Hooker shows up. Because he's had brutal wins, like, the one over Gilbert Burns where he hit him to the body and then hit him upstairs whilst taking the shot. He can be in there and he can have some grueling fights. So I'm excited to see what version of him comes up. But, the other fights as well, which I'll pass over to the fellas, Shamil Abdurrahimov versus Chris Dawkins. Chris Dawkins being a heavyweight prospect, Marlon Moraes being a bantamweight staple. But I'm interested to hear from you guys what prelims are exciting you.
Yeah, I mean, the Dorcas thing, I always get very, very confused because there is two Dorcas in the UFC. So it is like a bit of a, which one are we talking about again? But they're both in different weight categories anyway. I think this would be a good fight. It's light heavyweight, right? Or both? Are they both heavyweights?
One's a heavyweight, one's a middleweight, I think.
One's a heavyweight, one's a middleweight.
Chris Dawkins is a heavyweight. Kyle Dawkins being the middleweight.
Yeah. I don't know. Neither of these fighters, in Abdurakhimov, I'm going to go with Abdurakhimov. I'm just going to stick with it, man. Anyway, between these two fighters, as we always talk about, and as I always talk about, they're not overly athletic, and they don't look like, like Tom Aspinall, who comes out. He looks very athletic. He looks very physically fit. These two, and Cyril Gane, Francis Ngannou, these kind of people, Stipe, these kind of people that you see at the top of the division, they're the ones that are at the top of the division, not necessarily for their physical attributes and their like aesthetics, but because I feel like if you're carrying too much weight on a smaller frame, I don't really feel like you can do the best that you could possibly do. Obviously, the exception being Daniel Cormier, because he had a very, very good run at heavyweight, although he's 5'10" and he was coming in at like 255, which is ridiculous, but relying so much on his wrestling background.
Also a two-time Olympian, but we'll disregard that.
Yeah, that's literally what I was about to say. Like relying on his wrestling background and relying on being a former Olympian at a much, much lighter weight than he was competing at in mixed martial arts in his final days, But no, I think it will be good. It'll either be one of those fights that will be an absolute bang fest, or it can be an absolute sleep fest. I'm not sure which way it's going to go with regards to this one. But George, what's your take on this, man? Because these two heavyweights, it could go one way or the other with them.
Yeah, could go one or the other. I totally agree. Also, I'm surprised. I wouldn't even count for this Russian geezer to even turn up. I mean, this guy pulls out fights like there's no tomorrow. He seems to always somehow fail to make it to the octagon. So there's that hanging over it. Hopefully that doesn't happen, because for Chris Dawkins, it's a big night. Because when I look at, I'm just going to call him Shamil because I can't pronounce his surname. He's the type of guy that, to me, at his age and with the kind of like, I'm signed in for a fight, but I can't make it. He's clogging up the top 10. And it's kind of like, this is an opportunity for a guy who's a bit more hungry, who wants it a bit more, an opportunity to kind of get himself into the top 10 and push on from there. So it feels a little bit like a fight that Chris Dawkins, if he turns up and does a performance to the best of his ability, should win this one. But sometimes in mixed martial arts, the old experience does count for a lot, and we'll see. But I still would have Dawkins over the big, old, rather overweight-looking Russian guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And then someone that's not overweight but has a phenomenal experience, who I'd like to talk about next. I don't know if either of you saw this, but there was loads of it's Jessica Andraj, by the way, who's fighting Calvillo at the weekend. Andraj is 21-9. Not an amazing record, but quite a lot of these female records are not overly very pretty anyway. Coming in against Calvillo, who's 9-2, very, very inexperienced, I feel. Jessica Andraj is like OnlyFans. Did anyone pick that up? Just loads of pictures of her naked, and
And she says that she doesn't care because she's made more money from that than she has from her career.
And that is the saddest thing, to drop the current
champion.
And to drop the current champion on her head, knocking her out cold to win the belt. Yeah. And then you're making an OnlyFans, and, I just think it's very strange. I think it's very, very strange that people like this are not being appreciated by the UFC and not making enough money. And as much as we all dislike Jake Paul and Logan Paul and Swimming Paul and stuff like that, the stuff that they say and the amount of money that they pay people is pretty good, Did you see Jake Paul took like £1 million less so he could split it between all of his fights, all of his other fighters on the card that he had against Tyron Woodley, I believe it was. Yep. So it's like fair play to him, fair play. As much as he is just a very, very strange character and does a lot of weird stuff, fair play to him for paying these people so much money, man. And I believe one of them was like a female fighter, a female boxer. She'd only been in the game for a little while, and she was like, I don't know, I can't remember off the top of my head, but he gave her like 700,000, and it was like the most money she'd ever made in her life, like ever. And she went back to wherever she was from and, built like 20 houses for her family. Like, you know.
Yeah, Jake Paul becoming the hero of MMA in some weird way, which is bizarre. If you told me that 2 years ago, I'd be like, you're out of your mind.
Yeah.
But much respect. He's doing the things that the fighters should be doing, and the fighters should be calling for this to change. And I think the big stars really need to put in the effort to make sure the guys that are lower down on the card are getting paid, man, because when you have someone, as I hate to say it, as influential as Jake Paul, which is 3 or 4 words that I never thought I'd ever say in my life.
He is an influencer.
He's making
that's how he made his money. He is an influencer. For our generation especially, he is one of the very, very first ever kind of influencers that we would have ever seen.
Yeah, him and his brother, and they're fighting the fight that a lot of people aren't willing to in MMA, who are competing in MMA and should be saying these things from the rooftops. So much respect. Like he has definitely gained a little bit of my respect. I think he's still dog shit in the ring, and if they give him the right opportunity to fight someone who's real, he will get massacred. But I appreciate what he's doing for the people. And if these guys get paid more as a result of it, then happy days.
One problem is, though, that Dana don't give a fuck.
That's the other thing. Sadly.
If we're being honest, like I think the Paul brothers are total bellends. Honestly, I really do. But it is true that there's kind of like constant kind of like attack on Dana White about fighter pay is actually the one good thing that's come out of the Paul brothers' mouths, but the problem is that the guy that you're attacking doesn't actually care. Because if he actually did care, he would have paid John Jones, and we'd probably be talking about a John Jones Ngannou fight before the end of the year, and he ain't never going to do it. So, like, fair play for trying, but the guy's stubborn. The guy at the top of the UFC ain't going to move from his position, sadly.
Unfortunately, so, but. We digress. Back to Jessica Andraj, and we're not talking about her being naked in her living room anymore, or wearing her BJJ gi, and then just being like full frontal, hanging out. Like, strange. I don't know. Out of all the female fighters that to make an OnlyFans and to want to entice people in, she wouldn't be up there.
I will say, I don't think she's the only one. I believe that a few of them have done in the past as well, which again is really sad that they feel like they need to do that to make the money, and they all make insane money on that platform. So do get that bag. Get that bag is all I can say.
For some of them as well, it's not necessarily making enough money to survive. Sometimes it's just making even more money. I don't know, because obviously the time in which people are going to be wanting to view your content on OnlyFans would be a very, very short window of you being moderately famous anyway. So, so why not, exactly like Conor McGregor did, and kind of make as much money in a very, very short amount of time, then you can pretty much do not a great amount for quite a long time and not really have that pressure, because you've kind of got in early. You've really, really kicked the arse out of it and made as much money as possible. And now you're throwing a baseball in Chicago and it's going, up in the nosebleeds and trying to sing, but no one cares I'm sure he doesn't care, because his suit was like super bespoke, fitted to the T, fantastic looking suit. Would you say that was why he couldn't throw a ball? Possibly. Anyway, back to Jessica Andraj. What do we think is going to happen this weekend with her fight? Because she's a machine in there. She's a monster, great cardio, great striking, good on the ground. Where does she go? Prath, tell me.
Ooh, it's a tough fight to call. Both very strong grapplers. Not a great deal of striking out of both ladies. Jessica obviously having an absolute truckload of power, though. So I guess if this stays on the feet, Jessica's got a good chance of piecing her up, maybe hurting her and finishing it either on the ground or with strikes. Cynthia Calvillo is someone that I know Dana White absolutely loves, and you can tell because she's the opening fight on the main card. And I've seen them typically do this quite a lot. They put like I wouldn't call them I would say mid-tier / top tier women's fight as the opener of the opener of the main card, over fights, like Dan Hook and Nazareth Haqparast, that could easily be a pay-per-view main card opener, and nobody would bat an eyelid. What you tend to find in these fights is that they are a little bit more drawn out. I do believe, if anything, that this will go to a decision. I believe Jessica Andraj does have the capabilities, the power, the grappling background to kind of stop Cynthia Calvillo in her tracks. I think Cynthia Calvillo is very talented on the ground. She's got great jiu-jitsu, but just having great jiu-jitsu isn't enough when you're fighting a truck. So I do believe that Jessica Andraj is probably gonna win this. She's probably gonna win it by pretty clear decision.
What do you think, George? What's your take for this bout?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with Kraft, to be honest. Jessica Andraj will walk into the cage as the favourite, and rightfully so. It's a massive night there for Calvillo, because she knows that if she beats Andraj, she actually becomes the #1 contender, because that's where Andraj is currently ranked. So she basically can confirm herself for a title shot with Valentina next, if she wants to. So,
oh God,
which is crazy, right? Which seems crazy, but
here's your grand prize, death.
Where you're at, yeah, exactly, literally, yeah. Congratulations, you're now going to get murdered. But I still think that it's likely that Andraj kind of gets it done. Really, she's more likely to have the kind of like overpowering nature over Calvillo to kind of bulldog her way through that fight, and she needs it, because last time out, everyone was like, "Oh, she's Valentina's biggest competition. This is going to be a massive problem," and it was like she got mauled herself. It was actually embarrassing, to be honest. So yeah, it's a big night for her and where she goes in her career. But it's actually, I think it's an even bigger night for Calvillo, because you can actually confirm yourself as the next person in line if you actually somehow find a way to get it done on Saturday.
No, completely. And then, maybe if Jessica Andraj gets a fantastic win at the weekend, she might get a fantastic win. She might get a highlight reel knockout, fight of the night bonus. She'll put a picture of her titties on OnlyFans, and she could make an absolute bucket load of money this weekend,
Yeah, man.
She's gonna get that bag.
She'll make some serious dollar.
That's it. Now, George, I'm going to stick with you now for this one, right? Curtis the Razor Blades is fighting this weekend against Jairzinho Rozenstruik. What do you think about this one, man? Because Rozenstruik he seemed like he was really good, and then all of a sudden he got completely annihilated, and then he did all right again, and then it was like he had a very boring fight with Garn. Blades, obviously an absolute animal, coming off a loss against Derek Lewis, I believe, which is his last fight out. He's not going to be in the best of confidences. What do you think is going to happen this weekend with these two absolute monster heavyweights?
I'm not convinced by Rozenstruik. I never really have been. I know he comes from a great kickboxing background, but he's flattered to deceive in the UFC. I think, okay, he had that crazy finish against Overeem, but he actually pretty much lost that fight from start to finish. He then obviously lost to Garn, which wasn't debatable, and he obviously beat Sakai last time out. But Sakai is kind of like a lower, ranked, heavyweight. It felt like a bit of a bounce back for Rozenstruik. Blades, I'm more convinced by. I do think the guy is a bit of a monster. He's a bit of a killer, and and the thing about Blades, which I do appreciate, although it is boring, is that you know exactly what he's going to do, and it's very hard to stop him from doing that. Obviously, Derek Lewis put him to sleep pretty damn hard.
Stopped him from doing that.
He did stop him doing that. But I do wonder, although Rozenstruik's a heavy hitter, I do wonder whether Rozenstruik's got it in him to stop that from happening. If you had to ask me, I just think that Blades is gonna put him on the floor, and he's gonna do some pretty horrible things to him and he's got some pretty. I think about guys with vicious elbows. People like Leon Edwards come to mind, but Curtis Blades is right up there. I mean, he calls himself Razor Blades, and those elbows are just like that. He is. It's pretty damn mean what he does to people. So, if I had to go with something here, I'm going for Curtis Blades. Two heavyweights shouldn't really be going 15 minutes, should they? I'll go Blades to finish Rozenstruik.
I like it. I like it. How's he finishing him? G&P? Is it going to be a
most evil ground and pound? He's going to get on top of him, and he's just going to knock. He's not going to let him get. He's not going to let him get away, and the referee will just go, "Jock, that is enough. I can't see any more of that. It's disgusting what you're doing to him."
I like it. Prath, what's your take on this fight, man? Because we're always very vocal about these heavyweights, especially the ones that are a little bit lower tiered. Now, what do you think?
Yeah, man. I've got to pretty much agree with George here. Curtis Blades is going to take him down often and early. And Jairzinho Rosenstrike, as much as I think he is a great striker, he is not going to have an answer for Curtis Blades taking him down. And Curtis Blades is not just going to take him down against the fence. He's going to take him down an open mat. He's going to take him up. He's going to take him down against the cage. He's going to take him down on the way to the octagon. I think he does have great ground and pound, but I think considering that he's just come off the loss to Derek Lewis, where he got knocked out, I think he's going to be a little bit more calculated in this. So I do believe he's going to very unanimously win this fight by decision. I do believe it's going to be like kind of a shutout for Jairzinho. I think Jairzinho is just going to get taken down and ragdolled, because I don't think Curtis Blades at this time, especially coming off of that knockout, is going to take the risks to allow himself to get knocked out like he did against Derek Lewis, where he was basically standing like 2 meters away from him and then try to shoot on a guy who has monstrous hands. Like he was waiting to get slapped by Derek Lewis, and Derek Lewis did a fantastic job. But yeah, I think he plays it safe. I think he's going to round him out to a decision, but I think it's going to be like 10-8 all across the board.
The whole way through.
Like one of them ones where he's just going to take him down and hold him down and just continuously ground and pound him to get 10-8s out of all 3 rounds, and just like domination kind of thing. I think that's kind of where I see, especially coming off of a knockout loss, you just don't feel like, I don't feel like he's going to feel the same until he gets a solid win under his belt. And I think, the guy after that might have a good chance of either knocking him out, or, if they've got good enough takedown defense, that they can at least like stop him from at least taking him down, getting taken down constantly, and then have a slightly better chance. But no, I think Curtis Blades is just going to take him down and hold him down.
Yeah, and then it will kind of be like us as fans will be watching it saying, thank shit, this is not 5 rounds. We are grateful this is not 5 rounds,
Yeah. Because I mean, they put. Yeah. I mean, look, we all 3 of us love UFC. Some of the caliber of these cards for the last couple weeks have been pretty shocking. I wouldn't be surprised if they put this as a main event on like a random fight night card in the Apex. So I'm actually kind of glad that they put this on the prelims of a big card, not the prelims, the main card, couple of fights into the main card.
Yeah, for sure. And then we have, moving on. Personally, I'm not a massive fan of Nick Diaz. I think that, what he did like 5 years ago was fantastic. And I'm sure he was very good at what he did years ago. And, the whole laying down against Anderson Silva thing. And it's cool, but I feel like it's ancient history. I feel like it's old school mixed martial arts. And that's not the kind of world that we live in at the moment, and not the kind of vibe that I think the fans want to see. I think the older generation of fans are going to be very excited to see this, the return of Nick Diaz. But I don't know. I think the kind of younger fans, the kind of, I don't know, I want to say like 16 to 25-year-olds, they're going to be like, Nick Diaz, who is this guy? Oh yeah, I've seen his highlights. He laid down in a cage against Anderson Silva, and that's about it. That's kind of all you can really think of. For me personally, that's all I can really think of with the amount of highlights that he has. And is he an overly exciting fighter to watch? No. Are the things that he does outside of the octagon more exciting than what he does inside? Probably. But George, tell me, what do you think about this?
The most exciting about this fight is that it's been 209 months since they last fought. And that is absolutely fucking brilliant. Unbelievable, that is. But look, it is the fans' fight, Diaz, Lawler. That's what it is this weekend. But I'm kind of agreeing with you, Connor. It's not the one I'm most excited for on the card, but I'm down for it for however long it lasts. Do I think it goes 25 minutes? Probably not. I don't know, really. I don't think it'll. Maybe it might at their age, but Like, I get it. I'm cool with it. But what I don't really want to happen is Nick Diaz win, and then we all start talking about how he should fight Jorge Masvidal for the BMF belt. Like we don't really need to be doing that. Like, but I'm fine with it for the night. The problem is, right, this fight is that Lawler's like 1-4 in his last 5, and Diaz hasn't fought in like 6 years. And so trying to like tell you how this fight's going to go is almost impossible. You've got no idea. I've got no idea how Nick Diaz is going to turn up this week. I've got no idea what Robbie Lawler is going to turn up like this week. You're better off just going, well, we'll just find out on Saturday. We'll see how it goes, and we'll see how it goes, basically. Got no idea. All I know is that it's Nick Diaz, and in that aspect, there's going to be some form of entertainment to it. But that's pretty much it. It's a fight for the fans. I get it why I've done it. It brings eyeballs to the UFC as a company again. But it doesn't, personally for me, as a fan of the sport, I'm much more excited for the 2 title fights than I am this one. That's just where I'm at with it.
And to do it at a heavier weight as well, this close to the fight is very perplexing, because usually these 2 gentlemen are in fantastic shape, and to find out that they're fighting 15 pound heavier than what they should have been fighting at is a very, very strange call. I wonder who. Do any of you know whose corner that came out of?
Yeah,
I'm going to assume it's Nick Diaz. Yeah, I'm going to assume it's Nick Diaz. Because I watched, I was saying to the boys before we jumped on here that I was watching Robbie Lawler's media scrum, and Robbie Lawler's already come in under 185. So he's got to put on weight now to get back up there.
Realistically, though, right, Nick Diaz should be extremely fit. He does triathlons all the bloody time. He should be in pretty good shape, Nick Diaz, really. So I've got no idea how this plays out on Saturday. I couldn't even begin to guess how this goes. I've got no idea. But I'll be there at 4:00 in the morning, watching it, going, "Whoa, let's see how it goes, eh?"
Yeah,
and the crowd's going to go. The crowd is going to go mental. Like, as soon as Diaz appears on the screen, the roof is coming off the place. If Diaz wins, the roof is going off the place again. Like, there is an intrigue to it, but at the same time, it's kind of like whatever kind of thing as well.
Yeah. Now, Prath, you're an MMA purist, and we can see it in your eyes. You're an MMA purist, man. Tell us, what does this fight mean to you? Because he's been out for a while now. Do we see him making a resurgence back into the UFC? Do we see him coming back? He's obviously not going to fight for a title, because I felt, his style and his skills are outdated. But, do you think he makes a run up the ladder? Do you think he comes in and tries to make some noise? Or do you think it's going to be a one and done? Thank you very much. 209, we're out of here kind of thing.
209, what's up? And by the way, for reference, he's not going to fight Masvidal for the BMF title, because that actually belongs to Usman now. But what I will say...
He might fight Usman. They might just fucking go, fuck it, we'll put him in with fucking Usman.
At 185 for the title.
This will be Conor McGregor in 5 years. This will be Conor McGregor. Yeah. Conor McGregor will come back, fight some, whoever's at 155, like some bum, not even ranked. And then all of a sudden it'd be Conor McGregor's fight for the title at the weekend, just out of the blue. Watch this space. 2029, Conor McGregor will be fighting for the title again.
What happens, right, in the scenario, right? And I know this sounds crazy, right? But what happens in the scenario that Nick Diaz comes out and knocks Robbie Lawler out in the first round, and everyone goes, "Oh my god, what the fuck?" Like, at that point, then, I've seen crazier shit in the world than that happening. It would be ridiculous, but it's not.
You just never know. You never know. That is the beautiful, beautiful thing about mixed martial arts. That is the reason why we tune in every Saturday. And even if we don't do a post-fight breakdown with the boys, we still stay and we still watch it, because we know the unpredictability of even a crap card. Like I said to you guys, we've had some really, if you look at the cards themselves, they haven't been great, but some of these fights have actually delivered, and some of these guys have started to make a name for themselves. I remember there was one a couple of weeks ago, Ignacio Bahamundes, who did a spinning wheel kick knockout. Yeah. I hadn't really heard of him before, but when I watched that, I was like, good God, okay, I appreciate that.
The other one as well, just quickly, was your guy, Prath, Arman Sarukian at the weekend. Everyone wants to watch out for him now. No one is going to want to fight him anytime soon.
If Dan Hooker wins, that's the next fight. As much as I would love to see Dan Hooker go back up and fight, number 5, number 6, number 4, 5, I'd love to see him fight these guys. I think Arman Sarukian is dangerous as hell. And I genuinely thought that he was gonna. I can't remember who he fought. Who did he fight? Arman Sarukian. Who did he fight last weekend? I can't remember.
Oh, Christoph Giagos.
Yes. I expected him to wrestle Christos. I expected him to wrestle him like a lot, and for him to come out and finish him with a first round finish with his hands. Like, I think that's a big statement for him. Yeah. I don't know. How do we get to Arman Sarukian? We were talking about Nick Diaz versus Robbie Lawler.
That's who he's going to fight next.
Yeah.
Oh yes. That's who Nick Diaz is going to fight next for the 155-pound title at 170. Okay, let's just circle back to Nick Diaz versus Robbie Lawler, because this fight does mean a lot to me. Two guys that have really been a massive staple in MMA. I remember watching Nick Diaz on Strikeforce and watching him fight Paul Daly, and that being an absolutely crazy fight. And there was high hopes for him after that fight, for him to come into the UFC and make big waves against GSP, against BJ Penn. He beat BJ Penn, who's a legend of the sport. Maybe a little bit later in his career, but still Nick Diaz did what he does. And he's got a very similar style to Nathan, which is to not necessarily throw, 1 or 2 punches that are like heavy hitters. He's going to throw 16 small punches, and every single one of those 16 punches is going to land and is going to hurt. And he's it's such a juxtaposition to Robbie Lawler, who is a one and done thrower. Like, he throws one punch to knock you the hell out. So I think it's an interesting fight. I got to agree with George. Nobody knows what this fight is going to look like. Robbie Lawler coming off of his losses, Nick Diaz not fighting in so long. I think if Nick Diaz has kind of maintained his style, that's going to be to his detriment, because Robbie Lawler is training with animals in Sanford MMA. I know he's training with like Jason Jackson, who's a big guy in Bellator as well. And they have some, Michael Chandler. That's a big camp out there. And if Nick Diaz is just going to come out and look like Nick Diaz of 2015, 16, 15, then Robbie Lawler's going to have his way with him. And I think just purely because Robbie's fought in like the last couple of years and is evolved. He's evolved with the sport as it's gone along, whereas Nick Diaz has evolved with triathlon and cannabis and all of these things instead of actually fighting. Who knows, behind the scenes, he might have been training like a savage for all of these 6 years in a cave, and he's going to come out now and be, Hoist Gracie in UFC 1. Who knows? But for me, yeah, this fight, and you encapsulated it perfectly. This fight does mean a lot to me. These are the guys like I love, like Carlos Condit and Matt Brown, like these legends of the welterweight division of old. It's tough now watching these guys fight, knowing that back in the day they were such killers. And this fight maybe in 2015 or 2014 would have made me way more excited. In 2021, Robbie Lawler nearing 40, Nick Diaz nearly 40 as well. I want to say 38. Robbie Lawler's 39. I don't think this is going to be a good fight, boys. I love these guys. I don't think this is going to be a good fight. I think it's going to be a bit of a messy one. I don't know if it goes all 5 rounds. It might do, and I think if it is, it's going to be a bit of a grueling fight to watch. I think it's going to be, guys getting tired. And I think there is going to be chaos, because Robbie Lawler, regardless of whether he's in great, like a great mindset of the, when you go in, you see the guys get in the cage first round, you can kind of tell a lot about their mindset. Robbie Lawler is a guy who, as the rounds go on, gets more chaotic. So I think, if this does go all 5 rounds, it's going to be one of those ones where Robbie Lawler is going to really bring it in those last couple of rounds. And it's up to Nick Diaz to have that triathlon cardio to be able to weather the storm and get through that. But yeah, this is a big old question mark. What is going to happen? I have no idea. I'm curious to know, and I think, Connor, maybe you know more so than George, what the line is for this fight. I don't know what the betting odds are, but I would assume they're fairly close.
I don't know. I'm going to double check for you now. But why has Nick Diaz been out for such a long time? Because he was obviously banned for illegal substances, right? But then after that, he also got a lot of time out just randomly as well, or?
I think with both Nick and Nate, it's one of those things where I think they love the freedom of what mixed martial arts gives to you, but don't necessarily love the fight itself. And it's kind of the same as GSP. GSP was talking about how he, look at the things I can do in my life. I can go and I can be free and I can do whatever I want to do. And if I want to train or if I want to go eat food, I don't really care. My life is free. But to do that, he has to get into a cage and fight other people. And I think Nick Diaz obviously has a, like a no BS attitude, but I think deep down inside, he hates the anxiousness of a fight and everything that kind of comes along with it, the damage and giving damage to other people, even though he's a big old, like, middle fingers to everyone. Like, I do think deep down inside that both of these guys love the idea of making an absolute ton of money, but hate the idea of fighting another person in a cage in front of the world.
That's interesting. I definitely take your point on that. On the count, did you watch Countdown? UFC Countdown this week?
I didn't. That's one of the things I need to watch. I was going to watch it on my lunch tomorrow.
Nick Diaz was talking on that, and he said the only thing that he could actually get along with during his career was actually being inside the cage. He said that he couldn't do all of the media and the turning up. Like, he just didn't get why he had to do it, and he found that stressful. How everyone wanted a piece of him all the time, like, and there was that famous bit where Dana White was in the press conference and Diaz is sat there and he's giving it. Sometimes you just got to show up to stuff. Like, that's part of the deal when you're fighting in the UFC. And he's like, he was saying, I just didn't like doing it. I just didn't want to do any of that kind of stuff. All I knew was kind of like fighting. Because I'm from Stockton. I'm from the 209. Like, that's all I know. Like, I didn't need any of the stuff in my life. And I wonder whether after he got the ban, which was obviously incredibly long.
And bullshit.
And total rubbish. Yeah, like, I wonder whether he thought, you know what, I actually just don't need this anymore. Like, what is the point of this anymore? Like, and I don't know why.
And he made it.
Why has he come back? I don't know why he's back. Like,
he made a ton of money as well. Like, GSP, BJ Penn, Anderson Silva, 3 fights where he probably made a stupid amount of millions. And, you can become disillusioned with the sport after something like, the way that the Athletic Commission, and we absolutely love the Nevada State Athletic Commission. Great guys out there, great judging, love you guys. I think going through a process like that can just make anyone disillusioned and just make you hate the sport that you're a part of, because it's controlled by these guys who are just a bunch of suits. And if you look at him, I don't know if you've seen when he was in the actual trial, you know what I mean? When he was in the hearing of the court proceeding, if you will, he was like, he could just tell, like, he doesn't really want to talk to these suits about him smoking a bit of weed and fighting. It's like, let me just get on with it. And I think he wants other people to handle it. But because he got dragged into the process as well, he was all like, do you know what? I'm done with it. I just want to go smoke, party, live my life. And that's what he has done for 6 years straight. Like, if you follow him on any of his social media, that is literally all he does. He goes out, he parties a lot, he takes a bunch of this and that. And but the other thing I will say is you never really see him in the news. You never see him making like shit, like coming out of a club and being a piece of shit and like smashing someone's phone, unlike our delightful Irish friend who doesn't seem to be capable of having a night out without wanting to kill a man or kill their phone or kill the security guard or kill the paparazzi. Nick Diaz, as much of a badass as he is, still goes in, has fun, and does his thing, man. So he's a credit, man. He's a credit to California, to Stockton, California. Him and Nate, they're not the most, I wouldn't have my kids look at those guys and be like, yeah, you should be like him. But I think the people of Stockton feel like like Izzy Adesanya in New Zealand, like that's their guy, and Izzy in Nigeria, that's their guy. Like in Stockton, like Nick and Nate is their guys, and I don't think they could do anything wrong to the people of Stockton. And yeah, man, it's exciting though. It's exciting to see him come back, but I am taking it with a pinch of salt.
I mean, there must be quite a lot of people in Stockton that are very happy for their kids to go and get trained Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu by Nate and Nick, because they're both Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu coaches in Lodi, California, which is pretty awesome. And they're also both vegans. Who knew?
They are.
Yeah. Triathlons, vegans, like.
Nick was also saying on Countdown that the most rewarding thing in his life is actually coaching jiu-jitsu to all the kids that come to his classes. He says that he's more than at peace of just doing that for a long, long time to come. I say it again. I actually wonder why he's even here. I don't really understand, to be honest. He's never actually said why he's back. Don't get it. But maybe he might do in the press conference this week. We might find out then.
Yeah, if he shows up.
Just loads of fucking marijuana.
Where it's completely legal. So fair play to him.
Yeah.
Fair play to him for doing something that's legal in his county and in his state. But next up, the co-main event of the evening, Valentina the Bullet, Shevchenko versus Lauren Murphy. What about this is going to be? And with regards to betting lines, this one, what I heard earlier was minus 2,000 for Valentina Shevchenko. I mean, she was minus 1,200, I believe, last time she was out in her last title defense. And then she had that round where she didn't win. And then like the betting odds just got completely flipped a little bit. I think it was the only round she'd lost since Nunes. But then obviously she won the fight in dramatic fashion anyway, as she usually does. She's just a different breed. She's a different breed, a different caliber of fighter. Unfortunately, her sister hasn't quite picked up that genetic fighting kind of acumen, but nevertheless, Valentina is an absolute monster. George, give me your take on this weekend, because, I don't really need to ask all three of us what our opinions are, because we all think Valentina is going to get in there and get it done this weekend, because she's a beast. She's a beast from the East.
She is death.
She is the beast in the East. She is death. She is the undisputed queen of 125, never lost at that weight, and she won't lose at that weight again anytime soon. The only reason why she lost to Nunes once, I think she beat her in the second fight, is because of the weight difference. Nunes is a huge 135, and Valentina is a very small 135. So at her weight, where she is at her best, she is unstoppable, and that will be proven again on Saturday, because Lauren Murphy, as much as I have respect for Lauren Murphy and what she's done over the last few years, the win streak, everything, it's not going to get her anywhere. I don't think. She is going to lose at some point inside 25 minutes. It won't go to the judges. She won't get out the 25 minutes, and that's just the way it is with Valentina. And I said it before when we talked about her before she fought Andraj. You have to just respect people like this. Some people in life come along in this sport and they're just so goddamn good at what they do that you just have to sit back and go, wow, that's just incredible. And again, we'll probably sit there on Saturday and say the same thing again. What I love about Valentina is that she loves to just beat people at her own game. So whatever Lauren Murphy's good at, that's how she's going to lose. So I can't really bother to delve too deep into it, to be honest. It's very simple. Valentina will win. She will stay as the queen of 125. She will continue to fight 125, but ultimately, I suppose the only real thing for Valentina is, and I don't think she'll do it because I don't think she's that character. It would be fantastic if she got on the microphone after she beat Lauren Murphy and went, Nunes, you lost the second fight. Come on and start calling her out for it, because that's the only way, really. And I suppose maybe both girls need that trilogy fight, even though it's 2-0 to Nunes. Maybe they need that fight to kind of, for their own selves,
cement themselves, cement their place in women's mixed martial arts.
I mean, they're both already like goats, aren't they? But it's just like maybe that third fight needs to happen just to see, because there was question marks over the second one. But I just don't know there's no need for Nunes to take it. So maybe Shevchenko just stays where she is and she just continues to beat every 125-pounder that comes her way. And do you know what? That's all right, That's completely fine as well.
I mean, even if they said, right, look, if she got on the mic and said, right, if we do this at 130, I'll come up a little bit, you come down a little bit, no belts. I just want to prove to you that I beat you last time and I can beat you again.
I'm telling you now, Nunes doesn't take that. But I know Nunes. I think Nunes at that point actually does panic a little bit about the fact that it gets close to 125. I think the reason Nunes
and she's massive. She probably won't even be able to get to 130.
That's the problem. I think that they're just too greats in this era. They're so ahead of their time, both of them. And that's just the way it is. I mean, we'll be saying the same thing about Nunes when she fights Pena in December. Like, she's just ahead of her time, and Valentina is. And Lauren Murphy can do everything and anything in training camp to get ready for this. It just isn't going to make a difference. It's just not going to help. She is going to get beaten on Saturday, but she's there for the check, and she's there, and she'll pick up good money, the pay-per-view points, everything, happy days. But Valentina will reign. She'll reign for a long time.
Yeah, I completely agree. So, Prath, what do you think? Do you think we see another belt changing hands this weekend with regards to Volkanovsky and Ortega? Because Valentina's going to certainly retain her belt. She's going to walk away. She's going to do her little crazy dance that she does, that we have all grown to love and try and do in our living room, but it never comes out quite the same. What do you think about T-City?
Hey, man, speak for yourself. I got some pretty good moves. The people won't see it, but just to let you know. And the other thing as well, I just wanted to, just on the last fight, we were talking about, Amanda Nunes and Valentina Shevchenko being the fight to make. But for me, I think just purely from the size of Amanda Nunes, I think, and she knocked her cold in the first one. I think Cyborg Nunes is a bigger and closer fight and more chance of getting made than Valentina, because I think Valentina now has just recognized her place in women's mixed martial arts, and I think she knows that if she just stays at 125, stays the course, she will be revered as the greatest, at least the greatest 125 female mixed martial artist of all time. But already? I think already there. But I'm saying, like, if she just carries on going, she'll eventually get Dana White to call her the GO and to oh my God, she's the GO, she's the best of all time. We need to bring in Paige Van Zandt from BKFC to fight her again, and she's gonna get smoked. But so like just going. Oh yeah, sorry, you go, George.
I was just gonna say the other great thing about Valentina is she stays so active all the time. Fights. Yeah. 4 months, 5 months later, she's back fighting again. Yeah. She's always done that. So which makes it so confusing that her sister isn't as good as her, because she's training alongside her. So what is she missing that Valentina is just so much more, like, the skill level is just crazy, man. But let's talk about Volkanovsky versus Ortega. What a fight, man. Absolutely love this fight. This is one I've been looking forward to for a while, purely based off of Brian Ortega's last fight. I think Brian Ortega in his last fight against the Korean Zombie looked like he had evolved 5 times. He didn't just go from Squirtle to Wartortle. He went all the way to the end, and it was a crazy one. So I'm interested to see what kind of style he employs against Volkanovsky, because I would say that Brian Ortega obviously has pretty good hands. Before he fought Korean Zombie, I thought he had pretty good hands. I wouldn't say he had amazing hands, but he had enough to get him through to grab onto them and then get the submission win, which is kind of a lot of those first couple of fights that he was in. Now with this new evolved version of Brian Ortega, I think he's gonna give Volkanovsky some trouble. I don't know if he's going to be able to take down Volkanovsky, because Volkanovsky has amazing takedown defense for some of the greatest at featherweight. Jose Aldo. Did he fight Jose Aldo? No, he didn't. He fought Max Holloway. He did fight Jose Aldo, right? Yeah.
And he fought Chad Mendes as well. Like, these are big time wrestlers, and they weren't able to get him down. And if they did, they got him only down for a second, and he popped right back up. So I think Brian Ortega is going to have a very difficult time trying to get Volkanovsky down. But if he can knock Volkanovsky down, that opens a whole a whole different ball game. One thing I will say is that I've been watching Brian Ortega for years. I used to love when I was, I wouldn't say growing up, but maybe like 5 to 10 years ago, I was watching those Gracie University videos online of Henna Gracie and Brian Ortega teaching people, and just seeing the character development that Brian Ortega has had over the years has been very, very interesting. And his jiu-jitsu is world class. If he's hanging with guys like Henna Gracie, Huron Gracie, and he's able to hold himself in those regards, he is a world class grappler. And like, just watch the Cub Swanson fight where he just snatched Cub Swanson's neck and readjusted the grip midair to then get the submission. Like, these are like, that is super black belt level things that he is able to accomplish in the octagon. So obviously, if he grabs any of Volkanovski's limbs, Volkanovski's done. And I hate to say that, but that's just how good Brian Ortega is in jiu-jitsu. Volkanovski's obviously got some great opportunities here. Great hands, great movement, great defense, great counter striking. So he's got a lot of tools to be able to give Brian Ortega a tough match. And I think regardless of whether this is a finish for one or the other, I think it's going to be a very, very grueling fight for both of these fellas. And whether that fight ends in the 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round, or goes to a decision, it's going to be a war between these two guys. And I've been looking forward to this fight for a long time, because I knew both guys are just at, when you've got two guys at an elite tier level of skill, man, it's so satisfying to watch the intricacies. These are the fights that when I remember when Joe Rogan had Mighty Mouse on his podcast, and he was explaining how he explains mixed martial arts to other people, is that it's high level problem solving with dire physical consequences. This is the epitome of that for me. So very much looking forward to it. It's going to be very hard to call. I'm going to say Ortega by submission.
I like it. What I'm excited about is like you said, the striking of Volkanovski is very, very good. The takedown defense is very, very good. But Brian Ortega last time out looked very, very crisp. But we did see him take a hell of a lot of damage when he fought Max Holloway, I believe it was, and just got complete. Was it Max Holloway?
Korean Zombie.
No. Before that.
Oh, Volkanovski. Yeah. Volkanovski took a lot of damage in the second Holloway fight.
And Brian Ortega took a lot of damage in the Holloway fight as well, no? That was the fight where he was completely like black and blue.
Oh, yeah. Holloway's the best, man. Holloway is the best. The uncrowned champ.
So whoever comes out of this is going to be fighting Max Holloway next. So from a fan perspective, are we going to see the 3rd fight between Volkanovski and Max Holloway? Or are we going to see another fight between I don't know. George, you're better at this than I am. Is Max booked for anyone?
Max is booked to fight Yair in November.
That's it. But then that's kind of a bouncing fight. I don't see why he took that. Why he just wouldn't wait it out for the rest of the year.
Fuck me, man. We said it at the time, but it should have been Holloway against the Zombie, and just let those two scrap it out, because Zombie had that great fight, great comeback win over Dan Ige, and that's a fan's favorite fight, man. Holloway Zombie, it's a great one. Should have been that one. Make that a total eliminator to face the winner of this fight on Saturday. But anyway, it's going to be Yair, and Zombie. I don't know if he's not booked at the moment, but I'm sure he'll be back soon.
Sharapov, Mira Sharapov.
Oh, he's out injured still, isn't he, man? That is such a shame, because that guy is so good, but we're just never going to see his true potential, are we, Zabit? That is that is so. I mean, that is actually one of the saddest parts of the whole of the UFC. It's Zabit.
When he was on his rise up, Zabit was on his rise, and I think he had the first after the first 2 fights. I remember saying to myself, Yair versus Zabit is going to be a phenomenal fight whenever that goes down. I know it's going to go down one day. Hopefully, that's going to be an amazing fight. And I'm just so sad that because I do remember that they booked that before and it just fell through. I think it was probably from Zabit's injuries.
It was meant to be a main event on Fight Island last year. Fell off. They made it. The main event was then Sandhagen Marias was the main event then, which was fine. Like, it was a proper gutter. But Zombie's been calling out Zabit now for a good 6 to 9 months. So it may be if Zabit can get himself back fit, Zabit Zombie, man, that's a pretty cool one.
It's a good fight, man.
But yeah, no, this weekend.
Yeah, go on. Go ahead, man. What's your take on this weekend?
I'm a low key secret massive fanboy of Alex Volkonovsky, and he does not get enough respect about what he has done. I mean, the guy is on a 19 fight win streak. He's never lost in the UFC. He beat Holloway the first time, but he lost to him the second time. I think we can all agree on that. It should be one apiece really between the two of them. But I like Volkanovski. He is a 5'5" bulldog, and he gets inside and he causes damage, and he's got great takedown defense, and he just is relentless. And the big thing that I take away from this is that Ortega lost to Holloway by being outpaced, and Volkanovski is the only guy who I can really think of that can pretty much match Holloway in terms of the pace. And I think if he really puts it on Ortega at times on Saturday, I think Ortega might struggle to keep up with him. And that's where I think maybe he can take him and start to maybe overpower him in that sense. I don't think he'll finish Ortega, but I can see that being not a dominant win by decision, but relatively comfortable, I would call it. I think he has to be super careful getting caught up on the floor with Ortega for obvious reasons, but he's already said that so many times in the last sort of 6 months since the fight fell off the first time. I can't end up on the floor kind of grappling with him because I'm going to end up in a world of trouble. But I think with the great takedown defense, the fact that for me, it's the relentless nature of him. The first fight with Holloway, I watched that again today. The guy outworked Holloway every round, more strikes landed than Holloway all 5 rounds. That's unheard of, really. And I agree with you guys. Holloway really is the uncrowned champ, but I don't think Ortega gets it done. I think Volkanovski retains, and we look ahead towards a trilogy fight between the two of them. That's kind of where I'm at with it. But yeah, I just don't think he gets enough respect, Volkanovski. I really don't. It's a pound for pound. This is a top 5 pound for pound guy. Yeah. And he's got the attributes as well. He was a massive overweight fat kid from Australia, wasn't he? He's lost all that weight.
He weighed 215 when he played rugby, yeah. But I mean, weighing 215 and playing rugby is kind of like pretty normal.
But I mean, those boys, man, like he's now shredded his body down to that weight, and all that, the rugby, the kind of hard hitting, that dominant kind of style of sport, that does actually count quite favorably for him. He then obviously, when he couldn't get the training partners he needed, he went to City Kickboxing, and he's developed that side of it as well. Being with Eugene Behrman, as well. That's a huge thing. I'm not sure. I presume that he's in his corner this weekend because Dan Hook is obviously fighting on the card, so I presume he's going to be there with Joe Lopez, his other coach. Just this guy is so underappreciated as a mixed martial artist, and he deserves a bit more kind of, as I would say, Kamaru Usman's respect on the name. And I'm almost quite glad in the way that after kind of like a couple of years where it's just been him and Max, back and forth, him and Max, that he has got something kind of different to focus on. I think it's been frustrating that it's kind of dragged out. I think the tough thing didn't work. Like that was kind of like, just didn't happen really. There has been a bit of needle from that. They clearly don't like each other, which is fine. But ultimately, like as much as I really like Ortega, and he was like, it was like Ortega 2.0 against Zombie, and he was obviously a wizard on the floor. I just don't see the bulldog nature of Volkanovski being beaten. I think the relentless nature of him is too much for people to handle, and I think that will be the case on Saturday. I think he retains by decision.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, but how many times can we see these guys fight before it gets a bit? Oh, great! We're seeing Max Holloway versus Ortega again, or we're seeing Max Holloway versus Volkanovski again.
Yeah, man, I agree with you. Well, there is another guy in there who desperately wants to fight Holloway, and that's old Giga Chikadze, isn't it? He's calling left, right, and centre, saying, "I can beat that guy. That's an easier fight than Volkanovski." So maybe Chikadze gets a shout at some point.
Hopefully by the end of the year, we'll have some real movement at 145. I think that'd be crazy to see.
Definitely, man. And poor old Arnold Allen will get lost in all of it.
That's him.
UFC hates British guys that aren't Darren Till.
Hang on a second. No, British guys are idiots. I said this before we started. Leon Edwards, he is a total muppet.
What is he doing? Honestly, what do you know? Just a little 2 seconds on that. What is he doing on social media and stuff at the moment?
Idiot. Like, clearly Masvidal has said behind the scenes that he'll take that fight. So take the fight. Like, for God, like, you're not going to get a title shot by sitting around and waiting. So just fight Masvidal. It works perfectly. It's the free piece in the soda. It's all of this, all of that. Go and beat Masvidal. This guy's just fought. The last 2 fights he's had have both been title fights. So fight him. You've got a great chance of beating him, I think. Like, I don't get it. Like, I don't know who's advising Leon Edwards, but whoever's advising him is doing a terrible job.
It's all these Brummies, isn't it? All these Brummies, man. They've got their priorities all over the gaff.
He is an absolute muppet for turning that fight down. A true muppet.
Turning down any fight. You know, he's coming off of an eye poke.
It's actually maddening though. Like, because we all talk about how great Leon Edwards is. Like, we all the time. He is so highly skilled as a mixed martial artist. It's unbelievable. But like, this is just a new level of stupidity. Like, not taking Masvidal one. Like, it's absolutely mind blowing, to be honest. Like, I don't know what you guys think, but when I saw him say, "I'm going to sit around and wait for my title shot." I'm like, "Oh, mate, like, what are you doing?"
It's frustrating.
So I didn't know about it until just now. I've just read through the what he wrote on Twitter. I think Dana White even said, get a fight. Like, I think you're great, but you're not getting a title fight. So take another fight, win it, and go for the title there. And I think Masvidal's a great fight, man. Just in general, I think just name value wise, he can just bring you so much more. And the story's already there, as George said.
And coming off a loss as well.
Yeah. He's coming off of a 2-fight skid and got KO'd in his last fight. Like, I get that that's the mentality that you would have against, especially someone that you hate as much as much as he hates Masvidal. But man, you guys are absolutely right. Like, he needs to fight. He needs to fight. He needs to stay active. He needs to stay in there. He needs to keep showing why he deserves it. Same as Tony Ferguson, man. Him and Tony Ferguson are 2 peas in the pod, man. Like, 2 guys that absolutely deserve title fights way before their time, like way before they didn't need to get to 8-fight win streaks for either of these guys. And they have the skill set to really go in there and compete against the champion. Tony against Khabib and Leon against Usman. Like, I think those, if that fight happened back in the day against Khabib and Tony, I think that would have been an amazing fight, one of the greatest fights at that time. But like, I do think Leon versus Usman's a good fight, but I do think that Usman smokes Leon. No offense. Love you, Leon. British guy, always hoping for the best for you boys. But Usman's just a different animal at the moment. And I think Usman is just so confident, so sure of himself, sure of his fighting style. Like, he just seems so set with everything. And he's got a good team around him. He's got great training partners, Justin Gaethje and all these kind of guys. I just don't think. I think it's a bit of a silly move, in my opinion, for him to sit around.
It is a silly move.
Yeah,
it really is. And fingers crossed we'll see him back in the octagon soon. But until then, we have an absolutely stacked weekend. Prelims at midnight, and then main card walkout at about 6 a.m. I think for us here in the UK.
Oh mate, not that late, surely. You've got to flipping hell. Hopefully it's like.
I think it might be.
I think it might be, because it's a pay-per-view one, isn't it? They stick pretty true to their pay-per-view.
The Americano did pay-per-view, but we get it for free if you got BT Sport.
Most of the fights. Only if Conor McGregor's fighting that we have to pay.
That's it. We're living the dream over here. We have to stay up until... Let me find it. I don't even know what time it's on. 1 a.m. until 7. Yeah, I was right. So the ring walk will probably be about 6:20 for us.
Ish, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Depends. If we see a lot of finishes early, bam, we'll get out nice and early. But until then, we will be doing a post-fight breakdown on Sunday, so stay tuned for that. Thank you very much for tuning into the Fighting Talk 2 channel. Eloquent analyst, any final words from you, sir?
Much love to the people. We've missed you, and we're hoping to get a little bit more content out over the next couple of weeks. As I mentioned at the start of the show, like we've just been all tied up in all of our different various bits of life. Now, you know, we had so much time in COVID to sit around and to record these episodes, and now that life is kind of reopened again, we're struggling to find that time, but we will do it for the people.
That's it. Casual Corner, man. Let me know what's going on.
What's going on? There's great fights coming up, so stay tuned. And as much as I love Glover, I hope he gets ill and Jiri on the Lagers fights Black Yan on October the 30th. That's what I'm hoping.
Let's go. I love it. I love it. Until then, thank you very much for listening, and we will see you next time.